Welcome in to day 3 of our 30-day challenge for live streams. Today we're going to talk about academics, child. We're inspired because my younger sister graduated today with her MBA. I'm so freaking proud of her. Academic success is not the only thing. It's not the one thing to aspire to, but I still think that in 2024 it's a great thing to aspire to. And I wanted to have this conversation because I have so many other creatives within my audience. And a thing that has come up in like the last 5 years, especially as social media has grown, more people are content creators and all that jazz, is people wonder like, do they need to go to school? I know a lot of people have pushed on social media. You don't need to go to school. You can go to YouTube University. There's all these e-courses. There's information on Google. Like you can find out a wealth of information on the internet these days, which I don't disagree with. However, I have always been and probably will always be a person who really buys in to formal education. And while I think that there's a bunch of disservices being done within the American upper education system, just in how we don't make it as accessible, it's overly expensive and all of that, I still think that there's a need and there's a spot for it. And I have thought this for forever, but like when people ask me about going to college, I tell them you might be going to college and declaring a major or declaring a minor, but you're really not going to college for that specific subset of information. The number one thing that college teaches you, or upper education period teaches you, or it should teach you how to learn. And that's not something that unfortunately we get in elementary, middle, high school within this country. It's not until you get to like the college level that you are put in real life circumstances in addition to the academic vigors that put you in a circumstance to teach you to learn. A lot of people go to various schools and they're like, well, this professor ain't teach me this, and this person ain't teach me that, and this didn't do this, and I'm paying all this money. And it's just like, that could be very true. I think that all those experiences are valid, but ultimately, with the lack of what the professor brought to the table, you had to figure it out. You still had to acquire that knowledge. And along the way, what you acquire was, I got to learn how to learn so that I could teach myself the things that I need to get from this particular class or subject. I have, and I've mentioned this before on my other channel, like how I have 2 degrees, my top degrees are Masters of Science, and they're both in biology, right? But I'm currently working in film and entertainment. I was not trained to be a journalist. I don't have no academic background in journalism. Of course, I've had to take English classes and I've written technical papers. So I did learn writing, but from a very different perspective than how I operate within my career. But the thing that I do feel like I learned in college was how to learn, which is why I was able to pivot, I think. It's why I've been able to take what has up until graduate school been a mostly, technical, science, analytical driven academic experience and parlay it into a creative one and be able to pick up things quickly and honestly use it to my advantage in a lot of ways, because there's a lot of people in my field who don't think as analytically as me, and it winds up serving me well. And that's because I learned how to learn. I credit Xavier University with that. Like, in addition to all of the things I learned specifically in class, because I personally did learn in biology and I learned in physics and I learned in organic and I learned in all of these things, took the MCAT, like was planning to go to medical school and everything. So I definitely did learn specific subject matter stuff. But the ultimate thing that I learned at Xavier University in New Orleans was how to learn, how to adapt, how to get what I need from specific circumstances and situations, from textbooks, like I can pick up a piece of literature and extract information from it, and that's not a natural thing. So this video, this live stream is to talk about that. Like in the day and age where people are really pushing for people to not go back to school or not push forward, I really think that if you can go and you have a desire to go and you want to go, then you should. Now, I do understand that college per se is not necessarily for everybody, but even like another technical school, post high school, or some type of formal education in whatever area that you're most interested in, it can be beneficial because it helps you, one, like I said, learn how to learn, but it helps you hone your ability to acquire information and utilize it in a very strategic way. I feel bad for a lot of these young people who are coming out of high school, deciding to jump into create content creator careers, and never deciding to go to college or technical school or trade school, because you're basically jumping head first into adulthood without the buffer that college or some other school could actually offer for you. In addition to, college to me being there to teach you how to learn. The second thing that you get from college is a buffer for adult life, bro. You are out there on your own. I went to school in New Orleans. I'm from Baltimore. I was out there on my own at the bottom of the map, getting culture shock, a bunch of homesick, bunch of things going on. I was a collegiate athlete as well, so it was way like just super vigorous in reference to the circumstances that I was placed into, and that helped me, I think, prepare for a lot of the trials and tribulations that you experience once you're fully an adult and fully responsible for yourself. The college experience, if you are able to go on campus and experience it, but even if you're able to do it, part time, it just creates a little bit of bubble around you and your adult experience. So it's kind of like you get an adult light versus these kids who are like going and skipping, like content creators that drop out of high school. I've even seen some of them, but like skip college and they want to move to LA or move to New York and get their content creation journey off, and they coming out of their mama and their daddy house or whoever house, their grandmama's house, and they had never worried about bills. They have never had to, do certain things in reference to managing processes within our government, and whether it's like they just the first time holding your own birth certificate and social security card, like all of these things that you don't even think about, they get introduced to you slowly, I think, when you go to college. So it helps you like ease into adulthood versus just throwing your ass out into the open ocean and it's like you gotta swim. I would imagine, like, if I was in high school today, I would go to college, one, maybe to major in whatever, but ultimately, bare minimally, to slow down my process in reference to jumping out into the world, and then to have a buffer to even launch the content creator journey. Like, I look at some of these I look at some of these content creators and I'm like, yo, you would have went to college. You could have been launching this YouTube channel from a dorm versus having to pay rent at somebody's apartment and like figure it out and you thugging it out. Like, you could have created a little bit of a bubble for yourself. And I get it. College ain't free. It's an expensive thing as well. But I wish more. I wish that we get to a place where it starts to trend again for people to go and pursue other things because it just helps you. You don't know what you don't know. And that's another thing I think college exposes you to, all the things that you have no idea about, that you don't know to ask about because you don't know. And again, it helps soften the blow. Hey, TJ, you said, do you feel like film school is necessary to be in the film industry? I don't. I think that people who choose to go, it could be cool, but like I said, I didn't go to film school and I've learned a lot. Like, I have become really great, I think, with screenwriting. I've run my own writers group. I'm currently pitching projects that I've finished, similar to like basically right now in the industry, I'm very new and like haven't sold my first project yet, but I'm right alongside some fresh out of film school people. And this is another reason why I wanted to have this particular talk about academics, because I don't think that creatives register enough how having various lived experiences helps your art, right? Like on yesterday's live, I talked about very emotional moments with my family and like character development and all of that. And like so much of like what has happened to me, what I experienced, the things that I feel, I put into my work. It becomes therapeutic for me in a lot of ways, but it also, specifically like as a screenwriter, it helps me in reference to coming to the table and just being able to speak from very specific points of views because I've been in this circumstance, or I've been in this circumstance, or I lived in this place, so I know a little bit about how these people think. And sometimes I see creatives who are so hyper focused on their art, their bubble, their niche, and they neglect to live life outside of it. So you don't have other things to help inform and inspire your art, right? So I would say people who are opting to not go to film school, that's fine. Do something that's going to expose you to other pools of thought. And while you're going along the way, the only difference I would have made if I would have known, because again, I grew up thinking I was going to be a doctor, y'all. Like I was going down this path and it was just going to be that. If I would have known about the ability to get into the film industry and that I was ultimately going to end up here. The only thing I would do different is not necessarily go to film school, but I would have started filming everything around me. And I would have been filming just POV life things and like getting really great with composition and honing in and taking in as much as I could as, just lived experiences. Hey, Angela. Angela says, when screenwriters write, do they use an outline? Not always. Everybody's process is different. And watch the live that I did yesterday because I talked a little bit about how I am trying to expand my process, right? And I showed you guys the stream of consciousness questions that I did based off of the circumstance that I was writing for. I'm gonna just pull it up real quick again so that y'all can see. Um, like I have, this is just a stream of consciousness in reference to questions that a person in a certain circumstance would ask or would be wondering. And that is what I'm using to like reverse engineer and go back and create a beat sheet, character descriptions and backgrounds, and then go back to the page to write. When I first started, I did not do beat sheets or outlines to start. My very first script, y'all, I didn't even write in the screenwriting software. My very first script I started in Evernote on my phone. I woke up. I was living in Baltimore at the time. I woke up in the middle of the night and I just had this idea, and I just started to write it in the Evernote app on my phone. I do it and I go back to sleep. I wake up the next day and I pull the Evernote up on my computer. And I'm like, okay, I need to transfer this into something else. Again, I didn't even have screenwriting software at the time, so I put it in Google Docs, and I'm like looking up, well, what's the screenwriting format? So I'm like trying to manually format in Google Docs. And once I get all the information over there, I had written 4 pages worth of stuff. And it wasn't even properly formatted. Once I actually got screenwriting software and transferred it from Google Docs to there, it was actually 8 or 9 pages, right? And that was me getting started just from an idea and from a place. What my process looks like right now is I might have an idea for a theme, I might experience something or see something, and I want to explore it a little more. And some of the first things that come to me are dialogue and character. So I'll start there. And then I'll think about, okay, so in what circumstance or what scenario would we meet this character? And then I'll start from right from there. And then I'll go straight to the page. And I don't think that that's necessarily a problem, but I'm trying to expand my particular process because in addition to selling my own projects, I would love to get staffed on a show. And that process is a little bit different, it's a little bit more stringent because you have a showrunner, creative, whoever who is leading the charge in reference to the story, and you're basically on assignment. So in those cases, it'll be less about my original IP and more about me using my talents to further the story that they want to tell. So I want to expand to a place where I can do beat sheets and outlines and all that stuff first, so that when I get booked into a writer's room for a specific show, it'll be easy for me to take the idea and the concept of whatever the episode is that I get assigned and then work my way from there. I think I'm like a very natural writer in that I would just go straight to the page based off what I'm thinking. I'm like, okay, this character would say this based off of all of the things I've set up in my mind of who I know this character to be or whatever. But it could be beneficial to you to know how to go from outline as well. But what I would say is, and I'm sorry that that's such a long answer, but what I would also say is don't allow you thinking or thinking you need to outline or beat it out first stop you from writing. Ultimately, I tell writers to just write because we are in a constant state of editing and adjusting and building upon the stories that we're trying to tell. So don't feel like you have to use an outline when you get started or you have to create an outline when you get started. Sometimes you just feel moved by a mood, by a feeling, by a character, by dialogue, and you need to get it down and you need to go with whatever comes to mind from there, and then you can work your way backwards. That was such a long answer, but I hope that answered your question. And thank y'all for asking these questions because I get on here and I have my little points that I want to make. But other than that, I'm like, y'all go ahead to help me out because I don't know what y'all don't know, what y'all want to hear. But I love answering it. I asked because I saw your content last night and I was rewatching All American a couple days ago, and I see how the characters aren't evolved when everyone seems on repeat. Yes, yes. And that I think is what's so frustrating when I'm watching, because it's like, bro, it's been 6 seasons over the course of 4 years. People change, and not everybody changes at the same pace, right? But people change over the course of 4 years, especially if you're going from high school to college. Like the circumstances that y'all are giving us these characters, they would have changed at some point. Now, the characters that I do believe have changed some are definitely Asha and Layla. But Layla is in an era right now where, because her story was being commingled with Jordan, we got to see her rate of growth decelerate in a lot of ways. Um, but to tie it back to your question with this particular example, they are operating in the writer's room off of outlines, because the way that the writer's room, not every writer's room is the same, but in general, the way the writer's room goes, y'all meet up at the beginning of the writer's room and y'all spitballing ideas and blue sky, and that's what they call it. You blue sky the whole season and all of the things that you would want to happen. Where are these characters at the end of last season? Where do we want them to be at the end of this current season that we're planning? And then let's all throw out ideas of how we get there. What's all in between of like how we take them from here to here, right? And that happens at the very beginning. Then once they start to iron out the beats that they want to keep, throw away some stuff, then the showrunner will decide, okay, well, based off of your pitches or whatever, you're gonna write episode 2, you're gonna write episode 4, y'all gonna co-write episode 5, whatever, and this is the beats that we gotta hit. So we know what each of these characters need to do over the course of the season. They figure out where they want them to do it and how they feel like the best journey for them to get there, and what episodes they assign to, and then they assign the episode to the writer. So when staff writers on a show like All American get together and write their or go and write their episodes, they are working off of an outline that they have already predetermined at the very early stages of developing the season. TJ says, do you have an agent to get staff in the writer's room? I currently don't have an agent. I've been going back and forth about even if I wanted one, just because of like the state of the industry and where we're at. It's not as easy to get staff without an agent, but it can be done, and it can be done depending on how you network. And for me, I think I'm leaning more into going down the realm of like putting out my original work on my own platform on Erica Vane TV, which y'all will see coming soon, and then allowing the industry to come to me, because I spent a good amount of time when I first moved to LA chasing the industry and chasing the professionals in it. And it's like so many hoops that they put you through to try to prove that you're good enough. And so many times you're never good enough, right? So I'm not turning down any meetings when people like hit me up and say they want to meet with me and talk with me. Most recently, I had to turn down someone who wanted to represent me on the content creator side of things, because I'm not, let me see how I want to say this. I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody. I am not a dummy. And the entertainment industry, I think, thrives off of people who are not knowledgeable and don't know their worth. And they thrive off of desperation, right? So the agency that I turned down, who wanted to represent me on the content side, basically wanted to come in and like manage me for Erica Vane TV and all the opportunities that come there. That particular setup, right? For example, I know what I bring to the table, and right now it's a one-woman show. Like I do all of it myself. I do all the production for the live streams, the planning, the research, the watching the shows, the pulling my screenshots, the editing my video. I do everything myself. They came to the table like, oh, they can bring brands to partner with for sponsorship X, Y, and Z, but then they want a cut of everything. And it's like, but y'all aren't bringing me editors or have no in-house editors to help me push out content. I would take the deal if you want a cut of whatever you bring me that I agree to, but you're not going to get a cut of my AdSense. You're not going to get a cut of, like, I'm in a space now where I'm starting to do outreach myself, and I have certain relationships, period, just because of the things that I've done within the industry. You ain't getting a cut of everything when you ain't doing a cut of all of the damn work. But some people are just so focused on, well, I need a manager and I need representation. So they'll take that deal at the first thought. Like they sent me this whole little presentation and everything. I'm like, yo, this is from Canva. Like y'all didn't put this little template together and make it seem like it's customized, but this ain't that. And then also I looked into it and it's like, y'all got a bunch of white faces and I speak very black to a very black audience. Like there's so many things of like, it's not going to work. Um, and you got to be willing to say no and wait for the right thing and know your worth a lot in this industry. So like bringing it back to the writing agent thing, I was in a place where I really thought like, dang, I need to get an agent. I need to get a writing agent. And I was pursuing that a lot before the strikes. But then once the strikes happened and we all on the picket lines, the unrep and the rep people on the picket lines together, and some of those new writers, some of those writers that don't have the big name and don't have the overall one look deal, first look deals, they get shitted on just the same as me, or they're not getting what they should possibly get. And I kind of have, I feel like in some ways, a little bit more power because I still have my autonomy, because the buck stops with me and I make all my decisions. So while it's a little bit harder to get into certain rooms and maybe get my name on people's radar, I still can move a lot more freely. Now that doesn't mean that I won't at some point take representation, but it just has to make sense. And I personally will go solo dolo until I'm building a team that I feel like is really going to help push me forward and make a difference and not just eat off of me, if that makes sense. I'm giving y'all all these little like long ass answers. I'm sorry. Y'all know I just be talking. I be so verbose about every goddamn thing. So yeah, typically you go through an agent, or if you have an agent, their job is to get you staff. But there are people who have been staffed in rooms without management, without an agency. And ultimately, like their first job without it is what turns around and gets their agent to come to them. Because so much of this within the entertainment industry is like you got to prove that you're gonna be able to make people money. So they'll come out the woodwork once you already booked something, once your web series is popping, once people already saying your name. And very few agents and managers in Hollywood today are really into making stars and like investing before there's any real proof of concept by way of like you already coming up with some success on your own. Angel says, can you tell how you decided not to be a doctor but chose this career field? Yeah, ultimately the decision really came down to where I live. Because I'm an American, because I live in the United States, in the process, like after grad school, I worked as a allograft skin processor. So I was a person who processed all of the, when people pass away, in addition to like if you pass away like in a car accident or something and your heart's still beating, they can harvest organs from you. So that's where you see like heart transplants and liver and this and that, right? But regardless, whether it's a way that you die that that makes you conducive to like give live organs or not. A lot of people, when you check you're a donor, right, on your little license, that means that you're also giving people permission to take your corneas, your skin, tendons within your knees, like various things that don't need to be necessarily alive for. Like you just need to be within a certain period of time of your death. So I was, after I graduated with my master's, I worked for 3 years at an organ procurement company, Maryland's only organ procurement company, where I would sit in the lab every day and I would process the skin grafts that came in. And those grafts were ultimately used, sold to various hospitals in the country to help burn victims. While I was doing that, and also while I was in grad school, I would intern and volunteer at various hospitals because I wanted to be an OBGYN. And as I'm going through the process, in addition to like working at this nonprofit, keep that in mind, y'all, nonprofit, doing this and then going to the hospital and seeing various things, I just got a very clear and honest view of the American healthcare system. And I was a very typical, I want to be a doctor because I want to help people. And post graduation of like undergrad and like getting into the space that I just described to y'all, I learned that our healthcare system is not really here to help people. Our healthcare system is here to make money off of the people. The cure is never really the plan. You being cured of whatever this ailment is not the number one goal. Them figuring out how much money they can make off of you is, which is why we are not in the business of curing a lot of things in America, which is why the American government has been in the business of sequestering information around natural ingredients and buying certain things. But long story short, after I worked at the organ procurement company for a while, and even I felt like they were shady in a lot of ways and how they did certain things. I would put up like a skin graft that's like this big, y'all. that thing going for $300 to $450. I would make 200 of these a day on top of like the bigger grass that will go for thousands. And I'm seeing the behind the scenes of like there's a lot of money to be made. Meanwhile, the actual healthcare professionals, the techs like myself, they are making a lot of money as it seems to the American public, but they're not making nearly as much as the people who own this stuff. And I feel like y'all are more focused on that. Specifically, when it came down to like auditing OBGYNs, this one OBGYN that I followed, she was like on a production plan of like she had to birth 30 to 40 babies a month. And that was in her contract based off of the hospital that she worked at. So you mean to tell me I got to birth, and that's a baby a day at least, and that's not taking no damn break. So you telling me on some days I got to birth 2 or 3 babies? How is that the plan? And that's a contingency of my employment. But I also want to be a doctor that actually takes time to listen to my patients and can hone in and provide them specific detailed a plan for their health, for their pregnancy, for whatever, based off of whatever their lived experiences are. It's not possible. So if y'all are going to the doctors and you feeling like the doctors ain't listening to you, and you feeling like they rushing you along, they are, because their contract, their money is dependent upon the number of heads that they see in the day, not how thorough and how quality their care is for you as the individual. And the moment that I really realized that, that's the moment I was out. In addition, I got to see how the pharmaceutical companies interact with healthcare and how we're very quick to put somebody on a pill in this country. And again, that's because they want to make money off of you. I am from Baltimore, Maryland. And I tell people this all the time. They think I'm joking, but I really feel like this. My ass is from Baltimore, Northeast Baltimore to be specific. If you from Baltimore, you know Baltimore, off of York Road. I grew up on Sheridan Avenue. Off York Road, go up Greenmount. If I was going to be a drug dealer, I could have started that shit back in middle school. You mean to tell me I'm gonna go to school, go to college, go to grad school, go to medical school all this time to be a pill pusher in the legal way? When I could have started back when I was 12? I dated drug dealers. Like, I know that life, and it felt very much so like legal drug dealing. Again, I'm out. Y'all got a production plan. I can't get to know the client. I mean, the patients in a real way. You want me to prescribe this versus talk about lifestyle switches and nutrition and X, Y, and Z. I'm seeing all that, and I'm just like, yeah, y'all sold me a dream in reference to become a doctor if you want to help people, but y'all not actually helping people. And when I realized that, that's when I decided I was out. And it just worked in my favor that I have always been into fashion. I've always been into music. I've always been into watching film and television. I never really had any kind of aspirations into film and television because I didn't see myself. It didn't click for me, yo. Like, it didn't click for me. So I like those things. And in grad school, so while I was getting my master's, I wanted to start a magazine, but I was also writing a thesis. So I wound up just settling to start a blog. And that was in the blog era. So when the Cold Bitchy was popping and Concrete Loop and all of that, me and the Jasmine brand, actually, I started, I think, 4 months before the Jasmine brand started. And me and Jasmine, like, we came up in that same era because she was in DC and I was in Baltimore at the time. So a lot of y'all probably know the Jasmine brand now. If I would have kept going, I could have probably been in that same space, but I don't necessarily like the whole toxicity around reporting on people's lives. That's a whole other thing. I could talk about my blog journey then. But I started a blog in grad school, and that really opened me up to the entertainment industry, and I got to see a lot. So my very first interview was Melanie Fiona, 6 months in to start my blog. Because I was trying to learn as much as possible very quickly, and I wasn't trained in journalism. I went and I took an internship with Vibe magazine. I took an internship with Blue magazine, which was freaking phenomenal. And I started to, like, once I graduated, to try to move it forward. So I wound up building 2 careers basically kind of side by side. I was working at the Oregon Procurement Company, and my schedule was 4 days on and 3 days off. Those 3 days that I was off, I would go to New York and like work and do stuff with Vibe, or specifically with Blue. I was in the office with Blue a lot, and that's where I learned, the behind the scenes in reference to photo shoots, interviewing additional celebrities. Like, because I wasn't trained or didn't go to school and get a journalism degree, I knew I needed to get as much experience as possible, and that was to put myself around those people. So at the same time I'm working at the organ procurement company, I'm doing this, going back and forth to New York, and at the time that I realized that one, I was unfulfilled at the organ procurement company and I was about to leave. I made the same decision, a similar decision of like, yeah, I don't think I want to go to medical school because I don't want to live the life that's going to be required of a doctor within this country. And it just so happened that my blog had gotten to a place where I was doing really good. Like, I had coming up, I was like accepted to come and do press at the 2013 BET Awards. Like, I was traveling like crazy. I was like, okay, I'm a jump. I'm gonna do this. And the thing that really made the difference for me to shift into from specifically journalism and like media, in that regard, to film and television, or at least putting the idea in my head, was I did the press conference in New York for the film Selma, which is the film about Martin Luther King. It was directed by Ava DuVernay. And at this press junket, we got to interview Ava DuVernay, David Oyelowo, Oprah, who was also an executive producer. That was my first time meeting Oprah, and a bunch of other people, Common, everybody, from that particular film. And when Ava spoke, she talked about how she was a publicist and now she's a director, and she just pivoted because she felt called to and she could. And I was like, wait, I could pivot in that way. And then it started to click for me of like, well, girl, you already done pivoted out of science and medicine or whatever into journalism, into producing, in reference to, these celebrity shoots and more commercial things. So why not? Why can't you direct? And then from there, I'm like, okay, so then how do I do that? I started to look up more, was following Ava a lot, watched and read every interview that she did, and kind of charted my path from there. And it's just kind of been one step in front, one foot after the next, and keep going from there. And now I'm at this place, if that makes sense. I know it's a super long answer, but that is the story of like how I decided not to be a doctor and how I arrived at in the film, specifically entertainment industry. TJ says, "Are you interested in directing, or do you only want to write?" Oh no, I. The crazy thing is, writing and directing go hand in hand for me. I would love to direct the things that I write, and it's wild because when I moved to LA, because I wanted to be just an amazing director, like, if I do anything, I'm gonna try my best to be the best at it, right? And I'm gonna figure out what I need to do, what I need to learn, who I need to be around so that I can be the best. And me wanting to be a great director is what led me to acting classes. And I love acting as well. So I want to write, direct, act, and continue to produce. I want to do it all. Maybe not all at the same time the same project, but I want to do it all because they all they hit different things for me, and the combination of them just make it so that I feel the most fulfilled. Thank you for asking. Any other questions? If you're just tuning in or catching this on replay in the middle, we talk about how, girl, go ahead, sir, go ahead and go to college. It might be a little bit stressful, a little bit hectic for you, but it will benefit you in the long run. And then I talk about specifically in this live how it could benefit you. So go back, if you're catching this in the middle, rewind, because there's a lot of great gems, I think, in this particular live. Shout out to y'all for joining. TJ, are you a writer, director, multi-hyphenate? How do you feel about Tyler Perry not having a writer's room? He do have writers' rooms now, actually. So like Sister season 7 is when he handed over that show and to their writers' room. They actually have already written season 8, and they go into production on Monday. I wasn't even paying attention to time because I've been wanting to like audition for something on Sisters. But anyway, he does actually have writers' rooms now. Tyler Perry House of Pain has had writers' rooms for the last 10 seasons, I think. He writes a lot of his own stuff, and he had to at the beginning. And I don't personally fault him for that. I think that he hasn't necessarily done a great job of being a clear and diverse voice for the characters that he create. but I appreciate Tyler for the road that he has paved and what he has created for himself. Tyler has something that is so self-sustaining that he don't need the industry to greenlight him or tell him yes or tell him that this black woman's story is valuable and go ahead and make it. He can do it his damn self. So I am never going to fault that man for that. I know that he could grow a lot more as a writer if he really wanted to, and I would want that for him, but also like it's only means but so much of what I want for somebody on over their life versus what they want. That's not what he want. That's not what he want. I would love for us as an audience to spend less time critiquing Tyler. And I'm not saying that you do, but I hear a lot of it because, of course, I cover some of Tyler's shows. I would love for people to spend less time critiquing him and more time seeking out different stuff. Because the same people who watch everything that Tyler makes are the same people who have yet to see Origin by Ava DuVernay, which is a fantastic film. It's probably the best film in the last 10 years that everybody needs to see. Most people don't know about. And while you, not you specifically, but while people are like, Tyler needs to go deeper, his writing is trash, yada, yada, yada. And coming from Mia Coppola, Origin premiered 3 weeks prior, 4 weeks prior, and none of y'all talking about that. And all of the critical things that are in there, all the in-depth, the nuance, the subtext, all of the nitty-gritty of like, she really does this is in that film. And y'all ain't gonna go watch that, but y'all gonna go watch the surface level BS that Tyler gonna put up and get mad about it. But we have black creators who are creating the things that you want to see. You're just not tapped into them. And I personally am in a space where I'm advocating for us all to do whatever the hell we want to do with our voice, with our art, with what we feel like we need to put in the world. We're not at a place as a black people, I think, to be policing ourselves and to say, you need to stop writing and you need to stop directing and you need to do that because I don't like the way you represent us. Because quiet as kept, I really realized that I was going to chill out and how I critique Tyler because people are mad at how he presents black people, but yet y'all are still living these lives. If you get your ass on TikTok 3 months ago, the Who Did I Marry series by Risa Tisa, shout out to Risa Tisa, she a queen. But ma'am, you were living a Tyler Perry movie in real life. So how are we critiquing him for showing us in this light, but we're living these lives? This is real. I think the difference is because the industry has like a chokehold over what it will allow and what it will pop up and what it will push. And a lot of black stories don't get pushed in reference to diverse thought and diverse experience. So we get sent very specific stereotypical things. But like I don't have no problem with Tyler doing what he's doing. But I also watch a bunch of other stuff. Like I see the myriad of ways that blackness is is happening in this country, on this globe. And I'm not so hyper focused on Tyler and what he's not because I've already filled my plate with other creatives who are, if that makes sense. And I want more black people to do that. If we advocate for Tyler not writing anymore, then we're advocating for people who are at the beginning of their journey, who are ignorant and might not know yet to not speak. And why would I do that? Give your experience. I'm going to give my experience. You give your experience. You give your experience and let it all color the what is blackness, if that makes sense, and what is cool or what, like you get to pick and choose from all of these very real experiences. TJ says, I do write and interact. However, I feel like it's difficult just because of where I live. It's not a lot of people in my area that want to get into the film industry, so networking is non-existent. That's fair. If you don't mind, tell me where you live and try your best. Like, I know I've gone through seasons of this, so I completely understand, and this is not me judging you. So I hope that you don't take it this way. But it's something I had to tell myself. Like, you gotta not focus on what you don't have and focus on what you do have. And you have to maximize the use of whatever you do have. If you write and you direct, then you should be on your phone. Not that you're gonna put this out as a film or whatever, but you can. If you like, I'm working right now to figure out my first short film. I'm gonna shoot on my phone, and that's gonna push me because I write stuff that just be so big and so all encompassing. I'm like, I need a budget. It's like, but you don't got a budget right now, bro. So what can you make off of like no budget? What can you make with what you got? And I think that more of us need to do that where we are. You need to be filming your city. You need to be the go-to within your city, especially if it's not a big thing. Not necessarily the go-to. So like maybe that's not the best words, but you could be the go-to based off of your eye, honing your eye of like making your city look cinematically beautiful, catching things in certain competition, and creating in a way of like people can't have never saw your city in that way, if that makes sense. And I think the networking stuff will come, right? Like when you start to create in a narrative or form based off of the art that you create, the networking can come to you in a lot of ways. It is beneficial. Don't get me wrong. Like living in New York and LA, because that those industries are like there and established, it's a lot easier to do so. But you can literally start with what you have where you are. You just have to be very intentional, committed, and relentless about it. You need to be looking around at what stories you can tell based off of your real life, based off of what you see, based off the people that you run into. I get so inspired on a day to day. Like one of the things I do as a writer is I people watch everywhere I'm going, and I started to create like one of the ways I started to practice screenwriting years ago when I first moved to LA was I would be out and about and I would hear a conversation that like maybe two people were having at a coffee shop, and then they leave, and then I would be like, well, what does the rest of their day look like? What relationship do they have to one another? What would be the conflict that they had? And those like exercises I would do in my head, sometimes I would sit down and like start to write it out, and that will help me practice like structure and the technicals that come alongside screenwriting. So what I would say to you in reference to feeling like you're not in a place that physically provides the networking and the opportunities to access the film industry in the way that you would want to, create as much as you can from where you are, and then that will help you make the jump to where you feel like you need to be. Is that helpful? And depending on where you are, this could be really great because, heck, if you really think that you need to be in LA or you really think that you need to be in New York, go to a school there. Which ties us back to the original plan or the original topic of this video, this live. Welcome, welcome in if you're just popping in. Hey, hey. I think this is going to be a really great replay for people to tap into. So catch the replay for all those who just popped in. Any other questions before I get ready to head out of here? Drop them in the chat. And y'all, I get it. I get that it's hard. Like, I just explained to y'all that I came out of academia. Like, your girl was a pre-med major, student athlete, was the farthest from entertainment, and now I'm here. It takes a certain level of drive and determination to make it regardless of what your path actually looks like in pursuing this filmmaker journey. And you have to be resourceful AF. You have to, in areas and spots where you feel like there's lack or there's not opportunity, you have to find opportunity. You have to find moments to create. You have to be committed to that. Hey, Nzinga, welcome in, boo. TJ says, how often will you be doing these live streams? So I'm doing them right now, every day for the next 30 days. They'll have various topics just because I'm trying to get back active on this personal account and give you guys something outside of these film and television breakdowns, taking you behind the scenes of my creative process, not only the content for that channel, but, as I'm writing new scripts and doing pitch meetings and maybe directing because I'm working on a short film that I want to direct. Again, I want to shoot something on my phone so I know I can do it. Like, that's one thing. Like, Ava DuVernay swears by this. I ran to her at Sundance and she's like, shoot the thing on your phone. Like, don't, like, she didn't say this per se, but the energy was like, y'all got to stop coming up to me with nothing. Like, there's no excuse as to why you haven't shot a short film on your phone yet. Like, we got to give some of these people who are in really great places or in powerful places something to work with. And a lot of us come to the table with hopes and dreams and like, I really just want to get on. The only way they can help you, the only way that Issa can help us, the only way that Ava can help us is we come with something. So like, I'm in a place right now of like, okay, what are you going to shoot on your phone, on your own, and then build up from there. Like I said, I've already written a 1 hour pilot. I've written a half-hour pilot. I actually put together a writer's room and did a 14-episode season of a dramedy, a half-hour dramedy, which I'm currently working on sourcing funding from brands or whatever, so I can produce that on my own. So like this is for me to commit to my personal channel and creating content here and giving y'all like behind the scenes, because I get asked so many questions on a regular basis, like in DMs or in email about this stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can just pop on and use this to like give information, because it's hard. Again, y'all don't know what you don't know. I didn't know a lot until I was exposed to various things and I entered into various, circumstances or environments or met certain people. So that's what this is. The live streams are specifically to get me to commit to this channel for a certain amount of time to build a habit. And then there are going to be like actual dedicated videos of like what my screenwriting process looks like. I also am going to be opening up so I can read people's scripts this month, which I will announce on my coming live streams, and provide y'all feedback. Some people need help. They've already written something, they want some notes, and then they want to do table reads, and I can facilitate that. So I'm working on building up all of that stuff right here on this channel, and that's what the live streams are going to be doing. So short answer, for the next 27 days, we got 27 more days in this challenge, that I'll be going live every day. You wanted to be a writer when you were younger, Nzinga? Listen, I wish I would have known about it a little sooner. I don't think I would have made any. I don't know. I try not to have many regrets, because I feel like my story is so unique and it has provided me with so many skills that a lot of people who are in the entertainment industry specifically don't actually have. So I try not to think about like, well, maybe I should have like started thinking about entertainment from the very jump. It's like, nah. I move with a certain level of confidence. I analyze things very differently than my peers, and that actually works in my benefit in a lot of ways. I also, in not coming up in the media industry or in journalism specifically, I don't have certain insecurities that a lot of my peers who might have do have, because I guess I don't know enough to be insecure about it. So I move with a good amount of confidence that I think has spared me from a lot of things. Yes, but not in film, books. Child, I'm just now getting to a place where, one, I'm reading fiction, because for the past 10 years, I was pretty much only reading like technical books, how-to books, business books, stuff like that. And now I'm in a place of like reading more fiction, and have finally, like I told you, I think yesterday live, that I've gotten to a place of like, oh, I could actually see myself writing a book, because I couldn't see myself writing a book before. So I love that. TJ says on one of the live streams, can you talk about pitches, and do you help with scripts as far as giving notes? Yeah. So I'm going to be giving notes and opening up so that I can give notes for people's scripts moving forward. And yes, I can definitely make one of the lives about pitching, because Lord knows it's stressful, and the decks that you got to put together for your series. Ooh. So yep, that will be coming. And you gotta subscribe. Hopefully you're already subscribed. But if you ain't subscribed, because I'm not necessarily posting a schedule just yet. I'm also traveling right now, so I'm trying to get these lives in where I can fit in. Like today was all about my sister's graduation, and right now I'm about to get off because I'm going to go and try to like continue to celebrate and all of that jazz. So one, I'm not posting the schedule because I don't know the schedule, but also two, you need to subscribe so that you get alerted and turn on your notifications so you know when I go live, because you know it's going to be hopefully some gems that you can use. And Zinga says, I can't read them. Really, audiobooks help with self-help books. I love Black romance and have gotten into science fiction a bit with Black people. Ooh, I love that. I love that. But me and my sister's supposed to be doing a children's book about sisters. Oh, that would be so cool. Y'all got to do that. Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. TJ, once this live is over, drop down in the comments and post a comment about also what you would want me to do a live about. Or you can send me a DM if you don't want it to be necessarily as public, but the comments is like the best place to do it, so that I can make sure that I integrate some of the things that y'all specifically, or anybody, not just TJ. If you're watching this on replay and you got a question and you didn't catch me on live, drop it in the comment section and I will definitely address it in a future live or standalone video. And Zinga says, also congratulations to your sister. Yes, Jess, they said congratulations on graduating. Y'all, she got her MBA. She out here doing big business. I love this for her.
Thank you guys. It has been a very long day. But I appreciate you all.
All right. I think that's a great place to end. Y'all, thank y'all for popping on with me. I love you guys so very much. And we in this together. Listen, a lot of this stuff also, I'm learning as I go, and I'm just trying to pass the information along. Like, each one teach one. Let's go. Let's get it. All right, Zinga, don't forget to hit me up, because when your challenge comes to Instagram, listen, you didn't messed up and told me you got a goal, and now, because we internet friends, I'm just like, well, friend, what we doing? When you pulling up? When I need to pull up? And when we gonna make these lives happen? No pressure, but kind of pressure. Just let me know. All right. Good night, y'all. See you tomorrow on live. Have an amazing rest of your weekend. Talk to you later.